welcome and hello to today's Call Center Helper webinar. I'm your host, Xander Freeman, and today we're going to be talking all things customer service strategy. So what does an excellent customer service strategy look like? I'm really excited about today. I think it's a really great topic. And I think the two hosts I've got alongside me today are really well placed to deliver really interesting insights and practical advice for our audience. So, sorry, wrong slide. If we kick things off, Dan, hello. So I'm joined by Dan Pratt from DAP Consultancy. Dan, please introduce yourself to our audience again.
Hello, my name is Dan Pratt, DAP Consultancy. We're based in the UK and we are a customer experience consultancy company. And we work with clients across the board in all different industries, helping them with their CX strategy, pain points, implementation, long-term solutions, retention. We basically, in a nutshell, help companies discover how to deliver exceptional customer experiences that help attract and retain customers. And previous to that, I've always held quite a few senior CX positions across multiple companies, including Virgin, some hospitality companies, some tech companies, fintech, telecommunications, and started my company 3 years ago.
Perfect. And again, I think you're really well placed to deliver some really interesting insights on this topic as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dan.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Steve Bratt from Genesys. Steve, hello again.
Hi, thanks everybody.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience one more time?
Yes, so I'm Steve Bratt. I'm one of the AI experience orchestration specialists here at Genesys. So that kind of covers everything from sort of inbound interactions that your customers will have with your contact centers across all different channels, whether that's voice, digital, social, etc. So yeah, been here at Genesys a couple of years. I'm working with lots of customers in lots of different industries, so hopefully I can give some insights today.
Yeah, I think you'll provide a really nice balance to some of the things that Dan is going to be talking about as well. And I just kind of say your job title is one of those ones that is incredibly broad, so it could cover anything within this topic. So very pleased to have you on board, Steve.
I'm not saying that's intentional.
It's all right, you should hear mine. So on that note, my name is Xander Freeman. I'm the Digital Content Director at Call Center Helper. So there we go, another one of those lovely broad job titles. It could mean anything. So as always with a Call Center Helper webinar, there's a few bits of housekeeping to go through at the beginning. As always, we do like to make this a really immersive experience with our audience. We like to encourage active participation from those of you in the chat. So please do get involved. You can do so by clicking the chat icon at the bottom, changing the to everybody, so you're not just talking with our panelists. And please do type in your questions, tips, or any other insights that you'd like to deliver on today's discussion in the chat room. And again, as always, replays and slides will be available later this afternoon at callcenterhelper.com/recorded webinars. I would say, roughly speaking, they should be about an hour after we finish today. So please do check there after today's webinar. And like I say, with all of our Call Center Helper webinars, we do like to give a gift card out for the best tip. So you can get involved by using #question or #tip. There'll be different opportunities to get involved throughout the webinar, but like I say, with the presentations that we've got coming up today, I think you guys will be able to deliver some really interesting insights from what you've experienced within your contact centers. So please do get involved. You can do so by using #question or #tip. So without further ado, I think we'll be kicking off our first poll of the day. So let's get started with that. Let me just quickly launch that now. So when considering business decisions, which factor do you believe should take precedent in ensuring customer satisfaction? Are you prioritizing what's financially beneficial for the business, focusing primarily on providing excellent customer experiences, or striving to find a balanced approach? I mean, me personally, I expect balanced approach to take the majority of this poll, but I think it's always nice to open with something like this when we're talking about a topic that is as open as what your strategy should look like. Because again, as much as we'd love to pretend we've all got unlimited budget and we can deliver the amazing customer service that we could potentially deliver with that budget, in reality, there are a lot of business decisions to take on board as well. So I think there is a middle ground there, and it's just about trying to find that. Steve, would you agree with that? Oh, Steve, you're on mute. It's all right. We get one of these, and it's nice to get out of the way early.
Sorry, I don't know how I managed to do that.
That's fine. Yeah. So would you agree with that statement?
No, absolutely agree with you, Xander. Yes.
Yeah, there we go. And I'll tell you what, we've had that live for about a minute now. So let's end that poll and share the results with everyone. So it's looking at about 85% of our audience striving to find that balanced approach. Roughly, that's what we expected to see here. And again, we've got some people focusing primarily on providing excellent customer service and very little of the audience with option A, which is interesting to see. Like I say, an optimistic audience, which is what I like. So without further ado, we'll move on to our next slide, which is introducing Dan again. Dan, hello.
Hello.
Hello. So we're going to be looking at your slides in a moment. So we're going to be talking about factors to consider when developing your customer service strategy, which again, I think you're perfectly placed for delivering that discussion, which we're really excited to get onto. But before we do, I've got our next poll, which is in the form of a nice little question. So let me launch that to the chat. So how much does poor customer service cost UK businesses each month? 1 billion, 10 billion, or north of 10 billion? Dan, I know you and I can't say too much on this at this point, seeing as we both know the answer. But what do you expect to see from our audience?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's going to either be incredibly significant or not that significant, or it's one of those, isn't it? Where it could be £100,000, it could be £1 trillion, but yeah, it's it's either way, it's a significant amount that should not be being spent. That's for sure on errors, basically.
Yep. So well, let's end that poll there and share the results. We've got most of the audience coming in at 10 billion, some coming in at 1 billion, and 28% of our audience coming in at north of 10 billion. So, Dan, would you like to share the answer?
Yep, the answer is £11.4 billion a month. So the third answer is correct. And basically, on average, each person spends on usually about 1 day a week to 1 day every couple of weeks solving problems or putting things right that otherwise should not have happened, therefore costing the economy on salaries and infrastructure and goodwill gestures and so forth. So yeah, 11.4 billion is the answer.
It's a hell of a lot of money.
That's as of 2020. That's as of 2023. Obviously, we haven't completed 2024 yet, but
yeah, either way, it's a lot of money to consider. So again, like Dan said there, do you guys see the same in your contact centers? Dan, what was the figure you provided there? 1 day a week, was it?
So yeah, 1 day a week solving problems, each person.
So again, yeah, let's hear from our audience. Again, we can be doing this as we go through the presentation, but have a think about what you do on a week-to-week basis and how much of your time do you spend dealing with issues like these. So yeah, there we go. And without further ado, Dan, I think I can hand over to you and we can start seeing your presentation.
Cool, perfect. I will start sharing now. So hopefully you can see that, and that's presenting.
Perfect. Take us away.
Perfect. So welcome everybody, and as mentioned, yeah, my name is Dan Pratt, and I'm from DAP Consultancy. My company, I'm founder and director of DAP Consultancy, and our motto is happier customers make for better business, and I think that hopefully resonates with everybody from every walk of life. So we're within that. Without further ado, we'd like to start, and so obviously the question: what does an excellent customer service strategy look like? And this ranges from all sorts of things. It can be the way that you treat your customers, and it could be infrastructure, it could be in habits, and then obviously going on to what Genesys are going to talk about later into technology as well. But what I'd like to do is go through the more kind of human approach and the more kind of psychological approach. So to answer this question, what does an excellent customer service strategy look like? We have to start with the basics. The basics, the bread and butter of what customer service looks like. So as we mentioned, happier customers make for better business. We need to make sure that every customer feels special. They are the ones paying the bills. They are the ones keeping the company afloat. They are the ones providing jobs. So we just need to do that. And I asked a question to everybody in a recent project that I worked on, which was for a big hospitality company. A waiter can make a customer feel special very easily. A manager of a restaurant can make a customer feel special very easily. But how can someone in the finance team, for example, make a customer feel special? So if we overcharge somebody, which happened every now and again, the customer would type in a tip instead of their PIN number and end up tipping somebody thousands of pounds by mistake. How would you end up refunding that money to get back to people? It used to take 3 to 5 working days. However, I set the finance department a challenge to do that within 24 hours. They achieved that and was able to get those funds back to that customer within 24 hours. That made that customer feel special. Marketing, are the T's and C's clear enough, or are they going to be confusing and find customers being disappointed in the restaurant? So when we say make every customer feel special, it can be from every walk of life and from every area of the business. So what does customer experience cover? Everything. So becoming a successful business means you must understand your customers and put them first. You need to understand their wants, needs, expectations, and fears. And the whole business needs to head in the same direction, which is why I've got the North Star here. Back in the day on sailing ships, everybody was pulling the ropes, using the rudder, whatever they need to do to go against that one single goal of getting the ship from A to B. Our goal is to make sure that customers are happy and they're spending money and your business is growing. So every lever needs to be pulled in that one direction. Elon Musk famously said that the reason why he does what he does is not to make money, it's to get a mission to Mars. And if what he's doing isn't ultimately aiming towards that ultimate goal of getting to Mars, he doesn't do it. The point in SpaceX, the point in Starship is to ultimately get to that goal. So everybody needs to go in the same direction, all the different departments pulling together to make a customer-centric business. And on the right here, you've got the torch beams. So when you're offering a product or service and you have a customer that needs a product or service, when you are providing them what they want and those torch beams cross, that's the sweet spot. That's where you are delivering what the customer needs. And when it's not, there's all that gray area, all that wasted space where all those efforts are being wasted and the customer's not acquiring what they want. So make sure that you are aligned on the customer's wants, needs, expectations, and fears. So areas of focus, where do we need to look in order to achieve this? So there are 4 core reasons why customers walk away. Obviously, there's a million different reasons why that might happen. They might have received a burnt pizza, or they might have been overcharged by their insurance policy, or there's many, many reasons. But ultimately, there's 4 main key things that everything roots down to of why customers walk away. And these 4 mistakes are assuming long-time customers are happy. So we all see the offers new customers only. It's very expensive to get a new customer. It's cheaper to hold on to one. So look after the long-term customers and check in with them, do courtesy calls, send out surveys, whatever needs doing. Mistake 2, forgetting customers' best interest. Is the market changed? As the dynamics of culture changed? Are you still providing a service for their best interest? Number 3, employees engaging incorrectly. And this could be either call center staff or staff on the floor or whatever it may be. And that could be either rudeness or incorrect information or tone of voice not being empathetic enough or interested enough. And we'll come on to tone of voice a bit later. And 4th mistake is inconsistent communication and processes. So we've all been there where we've received an email that tells us one thing, we've seen a social media or marketing post that said something else, we've called up and spoke to somebody in a call center and they've told us the complete opposite to what we've seen in other places. That really, really annoys people. So make sure that all of your communication and processes are consistent across the board and everybody's clued up on those processes. So once something goes wrong, as we mentioned, how do people tell each other about it? Back in the day, it used to be word of mouth. Word of mouth still exists, and it's still an incredibly powerful tool. However, the likes of TripAdvisor, Google, Amazon, Trustpilot, we've seen review sites everywhere. Everybody reads reviews, everybody leaves reviews. So some statistics on that and the importance of them. And you can use these to your advantage as well. So it's not a detrimental thing. You can scrape the reviews text and verbatim and learn from that. You can chuck it through ChatGPT and extract key trends. And this is customers giving you free advice on how to improve your business. So it should be taken on board and taken gracefully. Same as complaints. It's a great way to learn. So 90% of consumers read online reviews before visiting a business. 88% of consumers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. Customers are likely to spend 31% more on a business with an excellent review status. 72% say that positive reviews make them trust a local business more. 92% of users will use a local business if it has at least 4-star rating. 74% of consumers will take action only after reading a positive review. 86% of people will hesitate to purchase from a business that has a negative online reviews. And on average, a 1-star increase, so meaning going from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, can lead anything between 5 to 9% increase in businesses' revenue. So this is a huge tool with huge exposure. And if you look at the impressions that some of your review sites have, there's back-end reporting you can get from all of these platforms. Really utilize that to the best of your ability and use it as a great sales thing to shout about how your business is working. So the next point is goodwill. Goodwill is a great tool. It makes your customers feel special. It encourages brand loyalty, encourages forgiveness. It sets you apart from the competition, and it improves the value of your business. So I'll give another example of where I worked with a hospitality client. And if somebody had a poor experience, they called up and said they had a bad meal. We used to give them a £25 meal voucher to return. When they returned to the restaurant with that meal voucher, they generally had a great time and came back several times throughout the year, spending hundreds of pounds more. But on that one instance, they didn't just spend the £25, they spent another £50 or £60 or £70 on top of that. And that £25 voucher was £25 in value to them, but to the restaurant was worth about £5 in cost price of actual ingredients and so forth. And when we did some analysis on these goodwill gesture vouchers compared to the marketing vouchers, such as 30% off or buy one, get one free on pizzas, these vouchers had a better ROI and a better productivity than the marketing campaigns themselves. So ultimately, we were marketing to complainant customers, giving them a goodwill gesture that killed 2 birds with 1 stone, was A, getting them back, showing loyalty, and C, a good marketing way to generate revenue. So really, really utilize and show goodwill. I, as a customer myself, if I have a poor experience, I don't expect to be overcompensated, but I expect to be compensated for the experiences that I've had and where I've lost out. And if a company doesn't so much as give something a small token, then it really shows something that if they're not willing to do that, then they've got no will to budge in other areas of the business. Then therefore, I like to be a customer of a flexible business that could adhere to my needs, and it really shouts. So utilize that. And the power of trust and loyalty created by tone of voice, as we mentioned earlier. Tone of voice is an incredible tool. It tells customers who you are. It's what makes you different. It helps build trust, and it can be used to influence and persuade. Albert Mehrabian, I can never say his name, apologies for that, who came up with the rule determining successful communication. It's made up of 3 things. So the words you use, the tone of your voice, and your body language. Most of us in business can't use body language because we're either in a call center or it's a SaaS business or whatever it may be. So you really have to put emphasis on the words you use and your tone of voice. So some companies, such as Nike, would use a very different tone of voice to Coutts Bank, for example. And it gives you brand identity, and it really, really appeals to your customer. If a Nike customer was spoken to, or Monzo, let's look at a bank, Monzo versus Coutts. They talk to their clients and talk to their customers in very, very different ways to attract those clients. So once you identify who your client is, have that tone of voice and be consistent with it. As mentioned, it covers those 4 things, and so it tells customers who you are. It's what makes you different to your competitors. So it helps you stand out. It helps you build trust, and it can be used to influence and persuade. So as we mentioned Monzo earlier, banks and car companies and whatever restaurants you can think of, people spend money with these brands not because of the brand itself and the product that they get. It's because they want to be in the safe knowledge that if anything goes wrong, they will be looked after. When was the last time somebody bought a mobile phone off of somebody on the street that said, I'll sell you this phone for 20 quid? I bet not very often. How many times did you spend 30 or 40 times more than 20 quid on a mobile phone because you bought it through Currys or Vodafone or wherever? We pay for those services for when things go wrong. So Monzo, for example, their customer service is very good. Emirates, John Lewis, Rolls-Royce. If you have a Rolls-Royce and there's any problem with it, you pay a fortune for the service, obviously, but it will be sorted out within minutes. If you bought a car off of somebody secondhand, then there's a problem with it, it probably won't be. Emirates Airlines, if there's a problem with your connection, flight is delayed or cancelled, you can probably be safe in the knowledge that they would look after you, whereas probably a low budget airline would be less inclined. And Amex, I've got a personal example of this. I lost my Amex card when I was in New York once, called Amex, and within 24 hours, They had a brand new card waiting for me at a bank near my hotel for me to collect and carry on spending with. If I had a cheaper credit card, then probably wouldn't have expected that level of service. So when you do a lot of things, which you do, you work so hard in making sure that your business is successful and you provide excellent customer service. You work so hard on resolving these complaints and making sure that these customers are well looked after. Shout about it, tell people. That will give them faith in coming to you. And also, if something goes wrong and then it's put right, the NPS score is generally higher than if things had just gone normally. So use case studies, use these examples, show this trusted brand insurance for when things go wrong. And then a couple of last points that we're going to go on to is why good isn't good enough anymore. So people nowadays don't just want average. You don't just want an average pizza. You want a nice pizza with great service. You don't just want to be getting on a flight from A to B. You want to have that lovely airport lounge experience. You want those polite air crew. You want a nice meal that tastes nice. So so at the moment, expectations are higher and higher and higher, and it's becoming more and more competitive. And if you don't up your game, then your competitors will. So it's important to make sure that you are that one step ahead. And the reason why good isn't good enough anymore can be looked at upon these 4 main key areas. Number 1, service isn't fast enough, and that can be through anything from a retail service to e-com, to receiving the device, or to calling up and being put on hold through an IVR system for 20 minutes when you want to speak to a human. Service isn't personalized enough. I had exactly this earlier. I had to call my internet provider, who hosts my website, and I got cut off 3 times, and I had to say the same thing 3 times to 3 different agents in order to get what I needed done, because none of them remembered me, even though I entered my customer number during the IVR process, yet they seemed to not have had a clue what I was referring to. So again, personalized is something that key, and again, that Genesis will be able to talk more about later. Service isn't connected enough, so the dots are not joined. Different systems are not talking to each other. They're not intuitive. They're not connected to the store or whatever it may be. And service is just reactive. It's not proactive. We need to identify where potential failings could happen, and once they've and react to them. Make sure they don't happen. Prevention is better than cure. Is what I've always been told since I was in year 7 by my tutor. And that saying has always stuck with me. Prevention is better than cure. So make sure your service is proactive rather than reactive. And then finally, on this kind of front, it's important to have a blended metric. So rather than just looking at NPS, which everybody does, or CSAT, or whatever it may be, have a combined ratio so you can see across the park. So if there was one customer survey where there was a low NPS, but then you had some great reviews, or if you had one poor mystery customer for whatever reason, and then you had some great survey responses, calculate it across the blend. So for example, you can convert all of these into a percentage. So complaint ratio, so you could say 1 complaint in every 2,000 users or sales or customers is what your average is. That's 100%. So if they receive 1 complaint in 1,000, that's 50%, and you can convert that into a percentage. Review sites, again, 5 stars is 100%, 4 stars is 80%, you can convert that into percentage. And blend all of these metrics. Again, NPS 100% is 9, promoters and so forth. Blend them all together and you can kind of see a good across the park where you are. And you can incorporate some other KPIs such as wastage or holidays or sickness or whatever it may be into this as well. And once you have that blended metric, you can then really utilize the areas that need to be looked at, and it gives you a much more broader scale. So before we move on to the final part, some top tips to take away. Yay. So once we get past this point, there will be a couple of QR codes. So get your phones out and your cameras ready. You can scan a couple of QR codes in a minute, which will give you some after reads and some tips and that to take away afterwards. But I will come on to that in just a second. So throughout all of this presentation, obviously we've covered many different things, and I've managed to put all of these things into 11 key points for you to take away. Sorry, it was 10 points. So remember, happier customers make for better business. Ensure your whole team, your whole business rather, is customer centric. Understand your customers' wants, needs, expectations, and fears. Use review sites to your advantage. Don't be afraid to show off goodwill. Have a consistent brand tone of voice. Shout about the service insurance you provide. Always aim to be exceptional rather than good. Have clear KPIs and targets and that blended metric. And also treat each customer individually and make every customer feel special. So these are my top 10 tips in order to create an excellent customer service strategy. If you implement these and have these at the forefront of your mind, embed them into your business ideology, you will be set for success. And like I said, if customers are happier, they spend more money and your business grows and everybody wins. So as I said, a couple of QR codes here. So if you've enjoyed the tips and hints that I've given today, I've got hundreds of articles on my website, all for free. I like to share my knowledge with people, help as many people as I can. Scan that QR code. Once you're on the website, there's, like I said, there's a load of articles there. You can scan through, read anything that particularly interests you, and hopefully there will be some useful points and some useful tips in there. And then, so once you've scanned that, the next one, if anybody would like to connect with me on LinkedIn or would like to have a personal chat, I'm more than happy to have a 30-minute chat or so as a free kind of discovery introduction, give us some tips and some advice. Like I said, for free. If anybody would like a personal consultation with me, scan me there on LinkedIn, add me, and drop me a message, and I would be more than happy to speak to you. So that concludes my presentation today in 17 minutes and 52 seconds. So hopefully that's been educational and insightful and helpful to people. And yeah, like I said, get in touch if you need anything. Thanks very much, everybody. And yeah, pleasure to be here.
Really great stuff, Dan. Let me quickly start sharing my screen again. There we go. Can you guys confirm that you can see that?
Yep.
Perfect. There we go. Well, Dan, thank you so much for that presentation. There's a lot to unpack within that. I love the point on blended metrics. I think it's really interesting. And again, another thing that you mentioned in there was using examples and trying to make the business case, which I think is something that can sometimes get overlooked. It's using these examples as a way of trying to, like you say, make this case to the senior decision makers within your contact centers as to why this is worth the investment. And I think that's something that as an industry, it's such a useful skill to learn how to do. So from my perspective, I think that's a really good point to pick out from there.
Yeah, I've often been in the mix of having to juggle operations, marketing, finance, and having to build a business case to get my ideas across.
Well, it's why we opened with the poll that we opened on this one. It's always about trying to find that right balance between sometimes what finance want versus what the customer actually needs and how you can deliver that best experience to them. So again, like I say, really, really pleased with that presentation. Thank you so much. So
you're very welcome. Thank you.
Let's start going through some of the questions from the audience. So we've had one in from Sophie. Are you seeing people use other social media platforms when considering their customer service strategy? I'm assuming what she means by that is, let's say, Reddit, TikTok, to an extent, LinkedIn.
Yeah, so back in the day, it used to be obviously just your standard review sites, whereas every kind of place now is offering, firstly, a review function. So Facebook, you can review items in the marketplace on Facebook. Every store has reviews, and also social media as well. People do comment on the pages, they comment on posts. So again, these are just as important to keep an eye on. And as well as having a social media strategy, it's important to make sure that is not just embedded into the marketing, but very, very much embedded into the customer experience, and making sure that is a communication channel that you have open, that's learned from, and again, resolved. And I do have an article actually on my website about how to resolve and how to handle social media complaints. So it is becoming more and more of a trend, but something to keep an eye on, definitely, for sure. And take it as seriously as you would Trustpilot or TripAdvisor.
I suppose a lot of it stems from where does the responsibility for social media fit within your business, right? Is it with marketing? Is it with customer service? And that is, even if it's not with customer service, it's trying to forge those relationships with, let's say, marketing, for instance.
That's exactly it. And I won't mention the name of them, but one of the largest pizza companies in the UK. And it used to sit, when I was doing some work with them, it used to sit with the marketing team. And obviously the images, the campaigns then continued with them, but any customer responses then moved to the customer experience team. So that was a review or comment coming in was handled in the same way a ticket came in, and was processed through the regular channels and taken just as seriously as a formal letter of complaint, for example, by experts that are there to empathize, sympathize, find quick fixes whereby a marketing team, obviously that's not their job. So it needs to have that balance. If it's in the same way you wouldn't ask a customer service advisor to create an image for your social media campaign. People are unique to their specialities and their skills. So utilize those skills in the right places and don't be afraid to let your CX team handle those complaints because they are the experts.
Really good advice. Here we are. We've got one in from Andrew Allen. What is your take on the impact of AI on the future of customer service? I tell you what, I'll preempt that. Having seen the presentations, I'm pretty confident Steve is going to cover that at length in his. So, and give us 5 minutes, and I think you'll get the answer to that question pretty succinctly.
If I've not answered that, then please bring it back up at the end.
Yeah, we'll make sure that is covered in the latter half of this webinar. So Sabrina has written us an essay. Here we go. Let's hope I can get through this in one go. When it comes to inconsistent communication and processes, ensure you have collaborations with other departments within the company. Oh, perfect. That's exactly what we were talking about before. When it comes to customer service, we tend to be given the information at the end part of the journey, but if we can take part in the conversations from the beginning, we can ensure our teams are ready for the calls / emails to ensure we are aligned for good customer service. Collaborations make a big difference. I think that's a really good tip, Sabrina. Again, it's
really good tip. Spot on there.
Yeah, similar to what we were talking about before with the question in from Sophie. Interesting, Steve, have you had any experience in that from what you've seen with your customers at the moment?
Yeah, there's, we quite often see whether you take insurance as an example, if we're somebody's calling in or interacting to make a claim against something that's happened to them, then quite often they'll deal with the contact center, and then they'll deal with the call, and they might give them a case, and then you might be passed off to a claims handler in the background, and then there'll be a number of kind of processes that trigger somebody making that claim. And then sometimes we've seen it internally in those insurance companies where it takes forever to actually find out why the customer called. There may be some details missing, and then you keep having to go backwards and forwards to the customer to find out more information, which frustrates the customer. We think about giving great customer experience. They feel like, I've already done this once. And so we're seeing more and more companies now kind of looking to stitch together frontline contact centers and back office, but also the processes as well. So they're all seamlessly joined up, whether that's with ticketing system, case management systems, workflows. So everybody everywhere can see the same kind of customer interactions, and everybody knows what they need to do to give that fantastic experience.
Yeah, I think it's a really good bit of advice to give there as well. And again, a really good tip in from Sabrina on the topic of broken processes. We've actually got an article coming out in the coming weeks on that, which I think, again, aligns really nicely with what you've just said there. So keep on board with Call Center Helper, and you will see more coming in on that topic. Really quickly there, as we're blitzing through the time today, tip in from Simon. Within my team, we're looking to use AI to work alongside agents. This is to increase satisfaction for agents and customers, as well as a tool for increasing diversity, e.g. summarizing emails so that they can be responded to quicker, or with neurodiverse communities. It's a win-win so far. Thank you, Simon. Really, really good tip there. Again, Steve, without stepping on your toes too much, I know you're covering over elements of this in your presentation.
Yeah, so the stuff we can do is Genesys, and then there's other tools out there as well from other software vendors. And so we'll kind of touch on maybe how some of that Genesys can help you with those sort of things as well.
Excellent. And I think we've got time for one more question and maybe one more tip. So coming in from Susan, how did you decide how and when to offer goodwill gestures? Surely you can't give something away for every small hiccup or customer service query. I'll tell you what, Dan, do you want to have a crack at this, considering the example you gave earlier?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, it's got to be within reason. So sometimes just an acknowledgement and a formal apology can help. So if somebody says, like, sometimes, yeah, if it's not that serious, I'm really sorry for that. We'd take the feedback on board. I'll mention it to the team, blah, blah, blah. That can sometimes be enough. So it's got to be within reason. But there again, sometimes the smallest things do help. So for example, a coffee in a restaurant or cafe, or if you're in a hotel, or even a waiting room for, I don't know, a car garage, a dealership, A coffee costs hardly anything, and that can go a long way as well. So just the small things do make a difference. But yeah, it's got to be weighed up within. I can't really put a percentage on it. But there again, yeah, it's up to like personal choice, and you'll gauge from the customer. If you do just offer an apology and the customer doesn't want anything, sorry, if the customer then is very annoyed at that, then obviously you know to up it. But there again, if you can see they're very clearly very happy with what just an apology, then leave it there. So it's a unique situation. Obviously, treat every customer individually. You have to gauge that.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
I suppose I'd say you probably need to make sure it's of benefit to them. I was a few years ago, I'll never forget, I had a bad experience at a hotel, so they gave me a voucher and it was a 3-night stay. So, oh, perfect. But what I didn't realize in the small print, I actually had to take just 2 nights to get 1 night, and I had to have dinner at this hotel. So it's like all of a sudden this freebie was going to cost me £600. So
yeah, so it's not free then. It's not a goodwill gesture. It's literally a marketing tool.
It's a really good comment to make. I think it's about making the right gesture. And like I say, Dan, I think you touched on that really nicely. It really depends on where your value proposition sits within your industry, right? It's different kinds of customers for different kinds of businesses. Right, I think if we look at the time where we're at, I think we will skip ahead here to the next presentation, which will be Steve. So Steve, thank you very much for joining us again today, and thank you very much for the contributions to our previous Q&A there. To kick things off with your presentation, I believe we've got another poll, which is a topic that's very close to my heart. So here we are, if I launch this. Do you include social media and social listening as part of your CX strategy? Yes, both, just listening, just direct messaging, prioritizing social listening and feedback. Neither, or not sure, different team looks after it. Steve, what do you expect to see today here?
I'm kind of expecting a bit of the not sure.
Yeah.
Because we quite often find that. But then also equally, it's integral, but there might be some sort of gaps in kind of what's been offered.
I'm hoping it's both. And you know what, actually, as I look to my left, that is the results that we're seeing most of here. So, Steve, you're pretty much bang on. Some not sure, but again, a lot of people, thankfully, and again, bodes very well for your presentation, are utilizing both social media and social listening as well, which is great to see. So let me quickly share those results. And as I do that, Steve, do you want to start taking over screen sharing responsibility, and we'll kick things off with your presentation.
Oops, hopefully it's sharing. Oops, this always does this. Sorry.
It's all right. There we go. Please take it away.
Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yep.
Cool. Right, thanks everybody. So I just want to give you some insights as to kind of what we're seeing from customers across varying verticals, in terms of what kind of people are looking to do as their vision and statement to deliver great customer experience. So I was with a financial services company last week, and one of the things that we like to do at Genesys is not kind of worry too much about the tech, but understand in terms of, you know, what is it you're trying to achieve? And then we'll work out in the background what it is that we need to deliver that fantastic experience. What came out from this particular exercise we did with a customer last week, it's almost as if they've kind of been reading what we do, and all the things that we've been chatting around today is that they're finding, a bit like we've talked about earlier, people want a consistent experience across all the different channels. If you think you're in any regulated environment, or you're providing advice and services for buying goods and services, whether you're in travel, clothing, you want to know you're getting the same answer. Otherwise, you'll end up going, I need to speak to a human being. If you're forcing people to call you, you could argue you're almost kind of stopping giving excellent customer service because you're forcing them to get through to somebody. Because what we're finding is most people want to self-serve and find out information before they interact with you. What we are finding is, you know, customers are becoming more and more demanding through whatever business that you operate. And therefore, the job for your agents is sometimes becoming a lot harder because they almost need to learn lots of systems and processes to deliver, but also understand an awful lot about what your organization sells or services to us as consumers and customers. And so that starts to become frustrating for the agents, and things like attrition becomes quite high, training becomes quite complicated. And then you're kind of moving away from focusing on delivering customer experience to almost learning how your systems and processes work to give a customer an answer. Then what we're also seeing is that everyone's focused on giving first contact resolution. And that's not anything new, and we've been hearing this for 20 or 30 years in sort of contact centers. But what is new is you need to be able to offer customers the ability to interact on the channel of their choice at whatever time of day they decide to do. And it may not be a continuous stream like a telephone call would be. It might be an instant message and they go away and do something. They go to grab a cup of tea. They go and attend a company webinar like we're doing today, whilst they're engaging with their personal life and interacting with suppliers that they deal with. So you need to give your customers the ability to choose the different channels that are suitable to them. And then we're also finding, because we're all doing that as customers, is that it's then hard to get the data. And Dan talked about, getting a blended scorecard on Net Promoter Score and CSATs. Well, actually, how are you going to do that properly if you can't monitor across all the different channels and all the different journeys that you customers might take to interact with you? They may start off quite well on one channel because they get the answer, but then they may have gone to a live chat and not got the answer. They then may have switched to WhatsApp. They may have switched to a phone call. So they might have started out quite happy, but actually could end up quite frustrated by the end of that journey. So it's important that we kind of can orchestrate all those channels and provide analytics across all those journeys. So we're talking about great customer experience, and I think voice is still here. We still see about 60% of people still will call in to the contact center, but we are seeing more and more people moving to digital interactions, and by digital that can be anything across any channel. And certain markets, some of our customers in Italy, we look after a global manufacturer. 80% of their interactions are over WhatsApp into their contact center. We have that same in some of our South American companies, where WhatsApp is a massive tool. In Asia, we have things like line messaging. Again, massive interactions via line and not necessarily voice. And we're seeing more and more social channels for the younger customers. So whether it's Reddit of this world, which is, you could argue, is a kind of a review social channel. We've seen a lot of customers get referred into your organization through YouTube or Instagram. So if that's their first port of call, wouldn't it be useful to have some context of who they are, what they're trying to do, and be able to interact with them on their channel of choice if that's where they're coming to you? And then when they're doing that, we need to be able to emphasize with those customers across those different channels. Historically, social, I think Dan talked about it earlier, social sat in the marketing team. They might have been a different SLA, whether that was a good SLA or a bad SLA. We've seen lots of people use social as the way to go and make complaints if you haven't got what you wanted through all the different channels, and you may have got a quicker response because marketing don't want to have a bad brand. So why not start listening to those interactions with social listening tools and be able to interact those and give the same experience into your contact center across all those different channels? Customers are expecting to know, who they are, what they're trying to do. Are you an existing customer? Are you a new customer? What it is you're trying to do, whether you're trying to buy something, update a system of record because you've moved house. And so you need to be able to deliver that experience, because the telling kind of fact there from analysis we've done is after one bad experience, 31% of people have stopped using the business. And before I read this report, I'm probably one of those 31% across a number of businesses, just because we've got so much choice now as to where we can go and consume services. So if I get a bad experience, why would I continue? It's easy to go elsewhere. It's not as that bad, or you could argue it is, that people we're seeing giving you 3 chances to give a better experience, and then you're going. So 80% of people give 3 chances and then we'll move away. So providing that contextual service is really, really important. So that's all great. How can we help you within Genesys? So within Genesys, we have, and I think I've seen on some of the chat, a few of you use Genesys already, but for those of you that don't know Genesys, we are a single orchestration engine for all your customers' interactions, whether that's digital, whether it's phone, whether it's email, whether it's video, whether it's over an app that you use. We can provide the same experience because we'll route all customer interactions through into Genesys and understand all that sentiment, all that analysis of who you are, where you've been, what knowledge articles that you've been trying to look at to self-serve before you've actually gone through to speaking to a live chat or to a chatbot. And therefore, based on your journey, we can then go, okay, we know a bit about this particular customer. They're looking to make a purchase. In this example here, we know it's roughly £1,200 from the shopping cart. Based on who they are, and it may be actually based on the sentiment and their attitudinal data from social, whether that's on LinkedIn or on a TripAdvisor or any of the Google reviews, to actually go, we know a bit about David. We're going to route him through to a VIP sales agent in this case, because we want to give David that great experience, because we can maybe see he's not been getting the assistance and support he needs. And we can link that into lots of systems of record and lots of your data systems. And I think to somebody's question earlier around, wouldn't it be useful to have all that context across all our different systems of record? We can push all that data into multiple systems for you. And so how are we doing that for you? So we've got a number of customers for Virgin Atlantic. They're one of our case studies are on the website for those of you that, there's a nice video on there. But they've been using a lot of Genesys AI technologies and some really interesting stats. Someone was telling me that if they can save 5 seconds of average handling time, it saves them tens of thousands per year, just on 5 seconds. And so seeing a 50% decrease in average handling time for people like Virgin will have a massive impact on them, but actually gives great customer experience because I'm getting what I want on my channel of choice and reducing my need to actually contact the contact center via the traditional method of making a call. But if I do, I've got a better chance of actually speaking to somebody first time who can actually deal with my inquiry. Now, somebody and some of the chats earlier was talking around, using AI to benefit both the customer and the employees. And that's absolutely one of our focuses in Genesys. AI is great, but it's got to benefit both people. And as touched on earlier, lots of people are finding it hard to kind of recruit the right agents to do the job because it's quite complex in what they're trying to do. And they don't want to be spending lots of time searching for data within your systems to try and deal with that customer. We've all had experiences where we've heard, sorry, my system's running slow. Can I just put you on hold? Let me just go and find something for you. So as customers, we start to become a bit frustrated after 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes because the agent potentially can't find the information. And so we can use AI to present that information to the agent's desktop in real time to make it easy for them to do their job. Excuse me. And then in terms of the customer experience, they've got the answer what they want really quickly, first time, not had to repeat themselves, and that customer that they're dealing with has kind of been able to provide fantastic customer experience. And again, where are we doing that for you, for other customers? Now, Northumbrian Water, for those of you outside the UK, they're a water utility organisation, and they're regulated by Ofwat. And so actually, what does that mean? So they get penalised if they don't provide great customer experience, but they're also rewarded for providing great customer experience. And so they won an award recently for using Genesys for a recent contact centre award within Europe. And again, there's lots more details on the website around that for you. Now, some of the things that we're seeing with our Genesys AI technology. So when we say AI, everything Genesys is AI based. So all the routing interactions, whether it's voice or digital, email, chat, we all use AI to route all the interactions. And there's just a few benefits that we're seeing kind of customers leveraging from deploying this. And I've listed 5 different things because not every customer uses all of these things. But I think it's definitely worth it engaging with us and looking on our website and attending some more of our webinars where we can kind of go into this a bit more detail. But I thought some of the headline numbers would be kind of quite useful for you, because all these things take you towards providing great customer experience and allowing customers to get the service that they need. Now, excuse me. People often say, well, I've got AI and there's generative AI and there's ChatGPT and there's all these other things. What should I use? Well, actually, you can leverage a bit of all of those things. And so we can use conversational AI in your website so customers can kind of go and ask what it is that they're looking for, and we can understand that context. We can provide that information to the customer on a portal, authenticated portal, or on things like WhatsApp or mobile devices. And then provide all that information when the customer needs some help onto the agent desktop so they can see exactly what the customer's been looking at. So when you get through to the customer, I think Dan said he had to explain himself 3 times to a service provider earlier today. That goes away because all that information is delivered to the agent's desktop. And then in real time, as Dan asks more questions, we can use AI to feed the agent the right information to give that experience. So they don't need to be an expert in a particular area. We can use AI to make them sound like an expert so they can focus on delivering great experiences. And I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to just pick up on a couple of things for you. So these are just some of the metrics that we've seen from some of our customers. Again, these are all on the website for you to go and have a look at. But a good place to start is use voice bots. So rather than using a traditional IVR to route calls into your contact center, why not stick voice bots on and actually understand why people are calling you? So you'll get some insight as to what it is that they're trying to do. They may even tell you, I tried to do this on the website, but I wasn't able to do it. Can you help me do this? And so you'll quickly realize, actually, the way you configured your IVRs was something that which you probably did 20 years ago, but isn't appropriate to today's customer demands. And so you can then start to glean insights to where you maybe need to go and update your website or the portals, or put some messaging on when people call in to give them an update so they don't need to speak to an agent. And as you can see, the stats from Somerset Council, again, on the website, there's some great information. But the abandoned calls is fantastic because actually people were getting through first time. I'm going to finish on here. So how can you learn a lot more about this? So there's an event in London. If you take this and use your phones, you can kind of QR code. So we've got a full day event in London on the 18th of June. And then there's a heck of a lot more valuable assets and reading on the Genesys website. Again, use that QR code and it will take you to some of the relevant links on Genesys. Hopefully that's answered a bit of everybody's questions.
Excellent, Steve. Thank you so much. That was a really, really interesting presentation. I think if there's one bit of advice I can give our audience from today, it's take different elements of what you've seen here. So take the things to consider, part of building out your customer service strategy from what Dan was presenting with some of the examples he's given, and then try and marry that with some of what Steve has shown you with, like I say, your tech stack might be Genesys, it might be another industry competitor, but ultimately see what your current stack is capable of and really try and marry those two ideas together. And I think that, in terms of meaningful takeaways from today, is a really good starting point for creating your next level of customer service strategy. Steve, thank you so much. That was really interesting.
My pleasure.
Right, so let me quickly do our last poll of the day, which, as Steve has gone through today, the Genesys product. So would you like to see a demonstration of the Genesys solution that Steve has just taken us through? Steve, what can they expect to see on that demo?
So we'll typically, there's a number of on-demand ones, which I'd always recommend people go and have a quick look at. There's an awful lot that we've touched on and we could spend hours and hours and hours on those demonstrations. So I'd always go and have a quick look at the websites first, and then we'll typically try and personalize a demonstration for you, depending on whether you're in financial services, travel, retail, healthcare, etc.
No, that's really great. And then I'll tell you what, let's quickly blitz through some of the tips and questions before we move on to our winning tip of the day. So tip number one coming in from Odate. Service blueprinting is a critical tool to ensure that the experience of the client will be as expected. I think that's a really good tip. Steve?
What you mean, maybe can you explain to me what you're meaning by blueprinting? Sorry.
Yeah, if you could pop something in the chat, we'll try and circle back to this one. Here's a question coming in from Tegan. How can we maintain accessibility parity with the use of AI, e.g. sentiment analysis and English second language speakers? Steve, I know you can only really speak to Genesys here, but do you have thoughts on this? You are our AI specialist on the call.
So within Genesys, we have real-time, so we have sentiment analysis. We'd also provide real-time transcription of a telephone call using our Agent Assist technology. So if English is their second language, then we'll kind of be transcripting that. And so we quite often find that agents, if let's say Polish is their first language, that they're able to kind of quickly read that conversation not at their will clearly, but kind of understand that. Now there is some kind of a bit of a future thing coming where we're going to be able, there's a partner that we're using who's going to be able to transcribe that into different languages almost in real time for you. Now, we can do that on digital channels straight away, but for kind of voice interaction, that's kind of something that's coming as well, which might be of interest, especially when people are kind of, using contact centers all over the world and different resources all over the world.
That's really interesting. No, thank you, Steve, for the answer. And thank you, Tegan, for the question. Right, with the timing we're on, I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll blitz through some of these tips here, then we'll move on to the winning tip. So tip in from Natasha, rewarding customer loyalty makes customers feel special. Again, very nice, succinct, especially for the topic we're talking about today. So thank you, Natasha, for that. One in from Laura, AI is great as long as it is accessible to all customers. Our customer base is largely made up of individuals with disabilities, and not all AI is compatible with assistive technology devices, i.e. screen readers. Again, a very interesting tip in from Laura and a very important point to consider. I think at this stage, let's quickly pick one more tip in from the audience. So here's one from Erin. We really think about our performance management cycle and always try to ask ourselves, are our people incentivized to be customer centric or not? It's about being consistent and not just paying lip service to great CX. It's all got to work together. Really good point, Erin. And again, a nice one to end this part of the webinar on, I think. So just before we move on to the winning tip, when we've got roughly 3 minutes to go today, what did you like best about the webinar in one or two words? If you could pop that in the chat, we'd love to hear your feedback on it. Again, all of us at Call Center Helper love doing these webinars, and it's always great to hear specifically what you guys in the audience enjoyed about today. So if you would be popping that in the chat, we'll move on to our winning tip, which has come in from Laura. Showing empathy and acknowledging the customer's feelings goes a long way to make the customer feel heard and taken serious, which results in customer loyalty and good customer service. Dan, let's start with you. What do you think about this?
Could not agree more. Empathy and acknowledging customer feelings is the key thing. There's nothing worse than calling a call center or calling or making a complaint and you just don't feel appreciated or listened to, or you feel a bit patronized. So yeah, show that can be just as important, like we said, as the goodwill gestures as well. It's like showing a real human understanding and being listened to is an incredibly powerful thing. So yeah, I think that's an amazing tip, Laura. Yeah, really good point. Couldn't agree more.
Excellent. And Steve, anything to add to that?
Again, absolutely. So CEO, a guy called Tony Bates, has written a whole book around empathy in customer experience. So that's worth getting hold of in a good read. Where we're able to kind of aid the agents dealing with that is, I think someone mentioned about Copilot. So one of the things within Genesys, we kind of be using Copilot to kind of starting to understand the sentiment of those customers a bit more and offer things like next best actions or suggested things that you might want to engage based on that interaction in real time. So again, depending on whether they've been doing the job for 6 weeks or 6 years, you can start to kind of get empathy across all your agents to all your customers.
And again, I've just seen a link to that book be put in our chat room. Thank you, Emily. So anyone who is interested in that book from Tony, it is available in the chat room now. So just final things before we finish with the minute we've got left. We'll be sending out a small survey after this webinar. Please do complete it. It's only 3 questions long and it helps us tweak the way we do these things going forward. So please do that. Again, replay and slides will be available later this afternoon. So please keep your eyes on callcenterhelper.com for that. We've got 2 webinars coming up just before the end of our spring and summer series. They are how to excel at managing and exceeding customer expectations on the 23rd of May, and beating attrition, quick wins for empowering your agents on the 20th of June. Please also do follow us on social media, specifically LinkedIn. We put a lot of effort into both our showcase page and community. Again, some really good practical advice on there and staying up to date, not only with the latest news from Call Center Helper, but all of our industry partners as well, like Genesys and consultants like Dan as well. So without further ado, we're at the top of the hour again, 3 o'clock in the UK. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed what you've been talking about.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Really appreciate it. Thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Absolutely. And Steve, thank you again. Really enjoyed your presentation.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting.
Thank you. So from all of us at the Call Center Helper, I've been Xander Freeman. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you on our next webinar in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much.
Thanks all.